Chapter 1, Shadows of the Past. What if the Megalodon and Mosasaur survived and still lived in the world's oceans today? This question lingered in the air of every seaport, every fishing vessel, every research station. The ocean, once seen as infinite and predictable, now concealed unimaginable ancient beings. Reports of missing vessels and wrecked tankers were initially blamed on storms or pirates, but then came unmistakable evidence: massive bite marks on ship hulls, damage that could only have been caused by overwhelming force. The world learned the truth firsthand when one of the giants, nicknamed Hammer, rose from the depths off the coast of Australia, revealing its terrifying jaws. It showed no aggression toward humans, but its size and power forced humanity to realize it was no longer the dominant species in the ocean. The steel hull of a tanker, crumpled like paper, and the deep, echoing roar from the black depths marked the dawn of a new era. That night, when Hammer surfaced, the sky seemed to darken, and the waves trembled with the presence of something ancient, awakened from its eternal slumber. Chapter 2, Route Changes and Fishing. The discovery of surviving giants radically changed global maritime transportation. Traditional shipping routes across the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans became high-risk zones. Companies were forced to chart longer, costlier detours to avoid known territories of megalodons and mosasaurs. This led to steep increases in global prices and logistical complications. Insurance firms refused to cover losses from encounters with these creatures, pushing many businesses to the brink of collapse. Fishing turned into a true adventure. Trawlers that once roamed the seas freely now only sailed under escort by specialized ships equipped with sonar and powerful floodlights. Fish hauls dropped dramatically as large schools began to avoid surface waters, fleeing the ancient predators. Small-scale fishermen abandoned their trade, unable to compete with the dangers and soaring expenses. The sea became a chessboard, where a single misstep could mean death. Through the fog on the horizon, shadows occasionally flickered. Mythic beasts reborn and fishermen crossed themselves, whispering prayers for safe return. Chapter 3, Surveillance and Defense Technologies. Unwilling to give up control of the seas, humanity launched a global program to study and monitor the megalodons and mosasaurs. Underwater surveillance stations equipped with advanced sonar, thermal imaging, and robotic drones were placed along major routes. These installations, known as the Eyes of the Ocean, relayed real-time data to global command centers. New ship defense technologies were developed, low-frequency sonic repellents that ancient predators could not tolerate, and reinforced hulls made from ultra-durable alloys. However, these systems were enormously expensive, affordable only to governments and megacorporations. For smaller vessels, luck and vigilance remained their only defense. Sometimes, strange sounds crept through the radio, part whale song, part something ancient and alien. In those moments, the operators of the ocean eyes froze. They knew who it was. Chapter 4, Underwater Cities and Utopias. As the threat grew, some scientists proposed a radical solution: constructing underwater cities. The idea was to build safe, autonomous ecosystems deep below the surface, out of reach of the ancient predators. What once sounded like science fiction slowly began to take form. The first such city, New Atlantis, was built 2 kilometers deep in a massive trench. Its residents were mostly scientists, engineers, and those seeking solitude and safety. These cities became symbols of human resilience and adaptability, offering a new way of life, yet they also reflected just how deeply the world had changed. Through the thick viewports, residents watched glowing jellyfish drift by, and sometimes, far in the distance, the dark silhouettes of giants gliding past. The world above felt like a dream, and below, there was only stillness, and a fragile sense of peace. Chapter 5, Megalodons, Kings of Warm Waters. Megalodons, adapted to warmer climates, came to rule the tropical and subtropical oceans. Their massive jaws and colossal size allowed them to hunt anything in their path. They weren't openly hostile toward humans, rather, they treated ships as part of their environment, sometimes curious, more often responding as if to a threat or a rival for prey. In some areas, coordinated hunts on whale pods were observed, suggesting intelligence and social structure. They were a force to be reckoned with, and their appearances always inspired awe and dread. The ocean fell silent in their presence. Seagulls vanished, dolphins scattered, even the wind seemed to still. Their dorsal fins slicing the surface were like omens, silent verdicts from the deep. Chapter 6, Mosasaurs, Lords of the Depths. Mosasaurs, with their long, serpentine bodies and razor-sharp teeth, claimed the role of deep-sea apex predators. More elusive than megalodons, they preferred dark, turbid waters and sudden, ambush-style attacks. Their strikes were swift and devastating, often aimed at ship propellers or rudders, disabling vessels and leading to their demise. They fiercely defended their territory and were far more aggressive toward intrusions. Unlike megalodons, mosasaurs seemed to view human activity as a direct invasion, and responded with violent precision. Researchers theorize this behavior stemmed from limited resources in deep-sea ecosystems. In the freezing darkness, they glided like ghosts, leaving behind only trails of bubbles and sonar echoes. Their eyes cold, pitiless, seemed to remember a world before man. Chapter 7, Battle of the Titans, Clash of the Ages. At rare moments, the paths of a megalodon and a mosasaur crossed, and the result was a spectacle of legendary proportions. One day, in the open sea, a research team witnessed such a clash. A massive megalodon chasing a wounded whale collided with a mosasaur that emerged from the depths, targeting the same prey. The battle was ferocious and chaotic. Giant bodies collided, the sea boiled from the strikes of tails and jaws. The megalodon tried to use brute force to tear through the mosasaur's hide, while the latter, more agile, delivered precise bites to the shark's gills and fins. The battle raged for hours until one of them, bleeding heavily, finally retreated into the abyss, leaving behind a crimson trail and a shaken world. The echoes of that clash rippled across the waves like an ancient war song. Even orcas and sharks fled, making way for the gods of the primordial sea, whose roars sounded like thunder from a forgotten age. Chapter 8, Humanity and the Ancient Gods. The existence of megalodons and mosasaurs profoundly changed humanity's worldview. These creatures, survivors of millions of years, became living symbols of our fragile dominance. In popular culture, they replaced myths and monsters, becoming the new gods of the deep. Cults arose worshipping the megalodon as a sea god, and the mosasaur as the spirit of the abyss. Scientists continued to study their behavior and biology, seeking ways to coexist. Some called for oceanic reserves where the predators could live untouched, others sought better defenses. For the first time in centuries, humanity realized just how small it truly was in Earth's grand design. In underwater temples, candles flickered as ancient symbols shimmered on the walls. Worship had returned, born from fear and reverence. These titans mirrored something deep within us, our dread, our memory, and our immortal pride. Chapter 9, A New Era of the Ocean. The ocean became a place where humans had to tread carefully. Deep sharks and sea dragons became essential parts of Earth's fauna, reshaping food chains and entire ecosystems. Great whales, once threatened by human hunting, now faced natural predators. Fish species adapted, shifting migratory paths and behavioral patterns. Some, learning to hide in coral reefs or deep fissures, thrived, others dwindled. New, exotic deep-sea creatures emerged, evolving alongside mosasaurs, developing unusual defense mechanisms. The ocean grew wilder, more unpredictable but also more alive and majestic than ever. In the abyss, new forms of life glowed phosphorescent, strange, as if from another world. Humanity had entered an age where every voyage into the sea became a journey into myth, into a reality pulsing with ancient breath. Chapter 10, Coexistence or Conflict? Decades passed, humanity never truly conquered the ocean. Attempts were made to construct deep-sea barriers using energy fields, but their effectiveness was limited and the costs astronomical. Eventually, it became clear, coexistence was the only path forward. Some extremists called for the mass extermination of these species, but most nations rejected the idea as unethical and environmentally disastrous. Focus shifted to understanding predator behavior, predicting migrations, and developing smarter navigation systems. People began to see the megalodons and mosasaurs not as monsters, but as vital pieces of the planet, witnesses to Earth's distant past. The world's oceans, once thought to belong to us alone, now clearly belonged to them too, and humanity had to accept that, learning to live in a deeper, more mysterious world. It was as if we had returned to being guests in a house where the walls were water, the ceiling stars, and our neighbors the majestic keepers of prehistoric memory. This was no longer just survival, it was a slow, reverent dance between two worlds, trying to understand each other.